Affordable housing isn't just a McPherson story, it's a Kansas story. From McPherson County to communities across the state, safe, stable homes are essential for thriving families. At the McPherson Housing Coalition, we're developing emergency shelters like the Oak Harbor Cottages and building permanent supportive homes through projects such as Sutherland Estates, creating housing that includes wraparound care and services. If you believe every Kansan deserves a place to call home, your support matters, whether you're in McPherson or miles away. Learn how you can help listeners and neighbors across Kansas by visiting McPhersonHousingCoalition.org.
Welcome to Housing for Good, a podcast dedicated to housing topics and issues affecting our communities in McPherson County and beyond. With years of experience and expertise, hosts Chris Goodson and Karolyn Moore discuss housing challenges and opportunities with other experts from a variety of housing fields.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Housing for Good. I'm Karolyn.
And I'm Chris.
All right, Chris, I've got some news for us. Are you ready for this?
You have news? Where'd you come up with some news?
Well, sometimes I do my job.
Okay.
So did you know, I know you do, that April is Fair Housing Month? Did you know that?
Maybe.
It is.
There's
it's
a lot
Fair
of
Housing Month.
Oh, that's super cool.
There's a month for absolutely everything under the sun. Yeah.
I think there's also isn't it also the volunteer month or something? You didn't
look? Probably.
You probably didn't look that one up.
Well, no, because we're talking about housing.
Okay.
Although we do talk about volunteering, but April is National Fair Housing Month. It's the 58th anniversary of that act taking effect. And basically what it tries to do is address racial equity and correct disparities in housing and evictions.
Oh.
Okay, so that's part A of the news.
Part A. Oh, I want to say something about the eviction. So go ahead. Keep talking.
That's part B.
Okay, perfect.
Part B is from Housing Not Handcuffs.
Yes.
You know that organization?
Yeah.
And they said that yesterday, so this came in the mail today, yesterday the Louisiana House of Representatives took the step towards voting in favor of an anti-homeless bill. This legislation is being peddled by the Palantir-funded, billionaire-backed Cicero Institute.
Mm-hmm.
We know about them.
Yes, we do.
And in addition to making it a crime to sleep outside, this bill, if it passes, would force homeless people charged with a crime to make a false choice between jail or a year of forced treatment.
Wow. Okay,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Without even knowing what's going on with the family or with the individual or with whoever.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're going to do that, then you need to provide options, right? You need to provide housing. You need to make sure that families can get the resources they need. That's really not fair.
Well, and are they going to provide these individuals with an attorney?
Yes.
Because they need one.
Right.
At this point. Yeah. So you can either spend a year in jail and pay whatever fines they put on you, or you can go into forced treatment and work labor to pay off the fines and fees. And so there you go. That's where Louisiana's headed.
Wow. And unfortunately, that's where we're going. And I understand that it's frustrating to have that homeless population running around. I mean, I don't agree with it, but I understand it in a way.
Yeah.
But if we're going, like I said, if we're going to do that, then we better get off our duffs and make sure that every person that is being forced off the street has a place to go that is safe, sound, and secure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that is unreasonable legislation. I don't agree with it at all. And so I do have another piece of news. I thought that Kansas was looking at a bill right now for evictions.
Yes.
Where if you get an eviction, then you can have it expunged.
Yes.
Did that pass?
It did. It is called House Bill 2357, and it forces eviction mediation to be available, and it expunges an eviction that you get on your record after a period of time.
I love that. And sometimes people have an eviction on their record and actually they didn't do anything wrong. They took it to the court and then it got stopped.
Yep.
But it's still sitting there and it's just there forever.
Yeah.
So for the rest of your life, you can't find affordable housing or hardly any kind of housing because you have this eviction there.
Yeah.
That wasn't even true in the first place. Or
Exactly.
maybe you didn't do something wrong, or maybe, it could be a million things. So I'm super happy that bill did pass. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. So in Kansas, we're going one way.
Mm-hmm.
In Louisiana, they're going directly opposite.
So maybe we need to fly there and talk to these people.
Well, we can try.
I know, right? That'd be fun, actually. Have you been to Louisiana?
I
That's
haven't.
boot state, right? Does
Yeah.
that look like a boot?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yep.
What's
Never been there.
Was that New Orleans? Are they in Louisiana?
Mm-hmm.
That would be fun. Let's go to
Let's go
Louisiana and
there.
talk to somebody. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
We can take detours.
That's true. Okay. Well, in the meantime, we're going to talk with Kym.
Oh, but wait, we have a question.
Oh, we do. Oh, well, let's go back.
Okay, let's go back. And then we'll talk to Kym.
Okay.
We're not trying to exclude you. Just
Yeah.
saying. Okay, here's the question. You ready?
Okay.
Hi, you mentioned that a lot of students experiencing homelessness aren't identified. That surprised me. If families don't come forward, how do schools actually find homeless kids experiencing homelessness and make sure they're getting the support they need?
Okay. Well, you know what? That's a very timely question.
It is.
After last week's conversation.
Yes.
Because that's some of what we're going to talk with Kym about today. So Kym Crupper is our new case manager for Oak Harbor Cottages. And she comes to us with lived experience. She comes to us trying to navigate the whole school system and honestly trying to learn how to help the clients we have that are at the Oak Harbor Cottages get through the mesh of what is resources and services and all of that. So,
And I will say the short answer to that is they are not identified.
yeah, they're not.
They're not. And so the way that happens, I'm not going to spoil Kym's side because she's going to talk to us from her perspective.
Yeah.
But I think if people would get more involved and call the school and say there's a family, I mean, we don't want to call DCF and get somebody in trouble or get their kids taken away. But if you would call, somebody would help them. If somebody could take the family to the schools and be an advocate for them, I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, because, I think one of the hardest things sometimes is to speak up for yourself.
Yeah.
So I can defend my neighbor, but then
Right.
when it's me that needs that, sometimes that's more difficult to just
Yeah.
speak up. So if you're aware of somebody out there, family out there that's homeless and maybe they're not identified as the population that is suffering in that way, then we need to help them out and take their hand and go with them.
Yep.
So.
Okay, now we can go.
Okay, fine. So today we are joined with Kym Crupper. Like I said, she's our new case manager. So Kym, tell us a little bit about you and how you enjoy your new job, because you love it, right?
I know, right? She loves her bosses especially.
I know.
That's nothing like putting somebody on the spot, right?
I know.
Oh, wow. Hi, I'm Kym Crupper. I absolutely love it here, honestly. I really do. Every day is different. Everybody's got their own life and their own issues that they're dealing with. And so it's really fascinating to find the different resources that everybody needs. Having been through it myself, needing assistance, I am a single parent trying to navigate the world because starting off out of my parents' house, couch hopping, got married young, divorced young, had a child within that, and so just being on the streets, living out of my car, and trying to find what to do, who can I reach out to for help. That's been a big struggle for the last 8 years. I was a truck driver for a while, and I got to homeschool my child on the truck, and that was a lot of fun, but there was no home base to call my own. Having lived on my parents' property for a while in a janky trailer, to say the least, that's not a healthy living situation, honestly. Come to find out years later, it's considered homeless, and it threw me for a loop. Like, it's a bed to sleep in and everything, and to find out that it's considered homeless, that was surprising for me.
Because the difference was that trailer didn't necessarily have utilities to it.
Right. So it was plugged into the house, but I didn't have running water. I had shut it off because it was leaking all over the place.
Yeah.
So, I didn't have a shower. I had to go inside and shower inside. Didn't have laundry, had to use water from inside to cook food and stuff. I had very minimal electricity, like it was a gas range, right? But I didn't have microwave. I had outlets that I could use. So that was the only form of electricity that I had. I didn't have the main power to it, and I had to plug in my own lights and everything. So it was a hot mess of a trailer.
Yeah. So that's that safe, sound, and secure that we talk about with
Yes.
homelessness. So maybe you had a roof over your head, but was it safe, sound, and secure? Not really. I mean, when you don't have utilities, all the utilities that you need, and you worry about water leaking all over, that is not a place that's
Safe,
really
sanitary,
should be habitable for someone.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect example of what homelessness can look like, because I think sometimes that people don't realize that homelessness looks different
Absolutely.
for different people. And so that's a perfect example. That was a good example.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, so, I moved out here to McPherson to be close to my Grammy and be closer to my parents that raised me. And so it just, God pointed me in the direction of McPherson. And again, that was supposed to be a parking spot for my trailer. But God said, nope, you don't need your trailer. And that never made it out to me. So I reached out to the Housing Coalition, and every step has been a blessing, honestly. I was in the tiny home, so I got to have the case management that I get to provide to everybody else. And so I was able to access those resources, where to find jobs, because it's not just black and white, right? There's all sorts of websites that you can reach out to. There's employment opportunities in town, the temp agencies, all sorts of different stuff that you can do for jobs just in and of itself. And then housing, you can find housing on Facebook and rentmcpherson.com, and different things like that. And then you also have, do you need a license? What do you need for the license and stuff like that? So just having access to those resources that the case manager was able to provide and point me in the right direction for, that was really amazing to have that support. Because as a single parent, afraid to ask for help, you don't know how to find these resources.
Yeah.
Okay. Going back to to the employment part that people don't realize is, as a single mother, we have lots of jobs in McPherson, but a lot of them are factory jobs. And as a single mom, who's going to take care of your kid overnight?
Right.
Yeah.
Who's going to pick them up from school? Who's going to do those things? So people don't realize that you have to look for job opportunities that are going to allow you some flexibility, right?
Yeah.
Right.
To be able to take care of that child. So there's another piece of that we forget about.
Well, and the other thing is, when you're looking for a job, there's online places that you can fill out applications. But if that business is not looking to hire, then that's not beneficial.
Right.
So you kind of either need to work with a temp agency, or you're going in person to those places where you'd like to get a job and figuring out what that looks like.
Right.
And then I think we've all seen those ads on Facebook for a rental or even to buy a house. And then you find out it's fake.
It's fake.
So
right.
there's just a lot of stuff to navigate. And when you're desperate, you're desperate.
And it's so easy to fall into a scam, into those Facebook scams. Oh, here's a house, pay $300 to go see it and stuff like that. I almost fell into that so many times.
Yeah, we know people that have fallen into that, so that's pretty crazy. But so let's look a little bit about why kids are falling through the cracks. What are the biggest reasons kids fall behind in our community from your perspective and experience? Why do you think kids are falling through the cracks?
Well, to be honest, having been homeless, you're more worried about trying to find shelter over your head, over your child's head, making sure they get fed every meal and stuff like that. So you find it really hard to be able to help at school. You're barely surviving at this point. And so just getting them to school is a struggle because I have to time manage to the point where I just have to get them to school so that I can worry about this, that, and the other. And so, in the homeless perspective, it's really hard to get the focus on making sure the education is correct for the child.
Okay, so I have a question. When you were enrolling into school, Did you let the school officials know you were homeless?
So that's the thing. So I got her enrolled in the school. The parking pad that I was supposed to have the trailer on, right, was in the boundaries of Lincoln. And so I went into the school and I said, hey, this is what's going on. I have a trailer. And the front desk staff were looking at me. They're like, because I'm trying to fill out the information online for meal help, because I got her enrolled, right? So she could start school. But I also had to fill out the extra information on making sure that meals were paid and stuff. And so trying to fill out all of that information, I was asking them, so how do I fill this out? And she said, well, technically that's homeless. So she was the one that was able to tell me, that.
They spotted it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome to know that they actually caught it.
Yeah.
Because
that leads into my next question. What warning signs or simple conversations do the schools miss that clue that this family is homeless? So in your situation, they didn't, but
I was honest up front, like, this is the situation. A lot of parents, single parents, aren't entirely sure how to approach that about themselves. They may not want to be honest about their situation. Again, they're trying to survive and make sure because you can get called by the state or DCF. Your child's not going to school, so bare minimum, they're just trying to get them to school. So they may not necessarily be worried about that, not know how to approach that subject.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing is, I've said this before, it's easier to hold somebody's hand and go help them.
Right.
Than it is to admit. It's very humbling.
Yes.
To admit this is where I am.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's like the lowest point in your life. You don't even have a roof over your head.
Yeah.
I had a teacher say to me once, this is a long time ago, my kids are old, but anyways, had said to me once, I was at a parent-teacher conference, and I was a single mom. I was not experiencing homelessness, but of course you struggle when you're single, no matter what, because two incomes sometimes is easier. Said, I can always identify the problem children because they're raised by single mothers. In the middle of my meeting with her, and I had a well-behaved child. As far as I knew, he was not really a problem. He's feisty like me. That's just in the DNA, right?
Yeah.
But she said that to me, and just it was awful. Right? I didn't choose this.
Yeah.
I didn't choose for this person to leave and for my son and I to be in that situation.
Yep.
But I remember as a single mother, which I wasn't single very long. That's another whole story. But anyways, I continually felt like I was treated less than. Because
absolutely.
I was a single parent, because I was trying to do my best, working full-time, going to school probably. I'm always going to school, but and trying to do all those things to make sure that my child was being taken care of, and it was constant. I mean, I can't imagine saying that to somebody in the middle of a parent-teacher conference. It was terrible. I mean, it stuck with me all these years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's so much judgment that comes on you through the school system, teachers, principals, other parents, there's so much judgment that comes upon you being a single parent. And the sad part is there are so many single parents out there, and they just so I don't understand why people have so much judgment towards us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times, especially in one of my kids' situations, he has some difficulties with ADHD and some of that kind of stuff going on. And there was judgment, and it was constantly having to fight for what he needed, the resources that he needed. I mean, I don't know if you want to address that side of it or not, but it was difficult to the point where I had to ask a person who was a staff member in administration. It wasn't a teacher, it was in administration, and they were supposed to have one in each meeting. I told him to leave because he was playing on his phone, and I was like, hey, if this isn't that important to you, get out of this meeting. Of course, that makes me very popular but I kicked him out. I mean, but why did I have to deal with that?
Yeah.
How disrespectful. At that point, I wasn't a single parent. I had a husband who's as mean as me sometimes, But so I wasn't handling that on my own. But I remember how I felt. It's judgment. they don't care, they're too busy. Your child's education, because they have an IEP or a 504, isn't that important because they're not going to amount to anything anyways.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you speak to that at all, or are you comfortable speaking to that at all? Have you had any experiences where you felt like maybe nobody heard you and you had to go the extra mile to get heard?
Well, again, with that judgment as a single parent, they didn't seem to want to take me seriously on wanting to get IEP or 504 established for my daughter. She's got ADHD and anxiety and a couple others. So she struggles in class in being able to follow along with everybody else. And so trying to advocate for her now that I'm stable, making sure that she gets the education that she needs. It was really hard for me seeing that the school didn't want to do something about it. Like, I brought up the subject. I didn't know how to bring up the subject. I didn't know how to move forward with the process. I called Topeka to see what I needed to do, and they said, talk to the principal about starting that process. Well, life got in the way and I wasn't able to do it for a couple months, but when I finally did, the principal just didn't want to take it seriously from my perspective. And
there were some very obvious signs when your child would come home. I remember a conversation about her clothes being ripped and torn, it's like, okay, you didn't leave that way.
Right.
What happened? And then this kind of roundabout trying to figure out, okay, who's saying what and what really is going on, and trying to dissect what you're seeing with your own eyes and what the papers weren't coming home. She wasn't doing home. You know, it's simple stuff, but when you're struggling already, it gets compounded.
Right.
And I will say, the first time I saw her, she's the sweetest thing, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I let her hug me. I like kids, though. Kids
you
and
never
animals.
let anybody.
I like kids and animals. They're my favorite. The rest of you, forget it. But the kids and the animals are my favorite. But the first time I ever saw her, I asked her, I said, Kym, has she got ADHD? Yes. I spotted it immediately. And I'm not a professional. I just knew.
But you have experience.
I know. I do.
In your
yes,
own
I do have
with
experience.
stuff.
But what my point is that if I saw it, why were they not recognized? Why did they not they should have been calling for that 504 or that and I know they don't give out IEPs anymore like they used to, but there should have been a 504 in place. So why was this so difficult? And you had people helping you, and you had advocates, and you had people saying, we're not putting up with this.
Right.
But what about that single mom out there who's living on her whoever's couch or in a manufactured home that's not in very good shape? What's happening with those kids? Who's advocating? Who's making sure that they have what they need? And we have a great school system, don't get me wrong, but we got a ways to go here. We've got to, as a society, I think this is a society problem, societal problem. How do we identify kids and immediately get them what they need?
Well, I think just in general, you hear nationwide that the graduation rates are down. Schools are struggling.
Yeah.
I think it's because we're getting away from the math, reading, spelling, the basics that we need, and we're putting other stuff in there that maybe we don't need to be focused on. But, okay, so as a layman, a lay person, what is the difference between an IEP and a 504? Because you've kind of been trying to maneuver this.
Yes. So I have quite a bit of information here. I'm going to not run through all of it.
Summarize, please. Summarize.
So the core differences in one line for GEI 504 IEP is let's try helping first for a GEI. 504 is give me access to, and IEP is teach me differently. That's very, very minimal.
No, that's really good.
That is very
good. And
I
think, isn't it true, and I don't remember all this because it has changed a lot since my kids were in school. They used to give us IEPs like nothing. I mean, it was never a problem. I never had to fight for an IEP for one of my kids. But so isn't it true that one of them has to, if you have a diagnosis, can't you automatically get a 504? And then it has to be more with the IEP, or do you know that? I thought if you had a diagnosis of some sort, you automatically qualified for a 504. And maybe I'm talking, if you're out there in the school district and we're wrong, send us an email and say, hey, you're wrong and this is what it is, so we can read it on the air after this airs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and another thing that I thought was rather interesting was IEPs are super strict. So you have to put the request evaluation in writing, and that starts the legal clock immediately. The school has 10 to 15 days, varying by state, and must respond with a yes or no. Evaluation period is within 60 days max by federal guidelines, and you must have a meeting right after the evaluation. 504 is moderate. No exact federal timeline, must happen in a reasonable amount of time, typically within a few weeks, and there is a plan shortly after. GEI is more of a loose education thing. No timeline, can go on indefinitely, and schools may keep kids here way too long.
So one of the things that I know I heard you talking about was that your daughter does a really terrible when it comes to a time limit. That for her is a trigger.
Yes.
And she almost can't function because now there's a time limit.
Right.
So for a modification taking a test to give extra time, which one of those does that fall under? Could it fall under both the 504 and the IEP, or is it more one or the other? From your experience.
From my experience, yes. So I would say it would be more of a 504 than it would be an IEP, according to what I've read. But at this point, she has a GEI, and we're seeing how far that goes. But yeah, they've had to modify it to where she has a folder barrier so that she doesn't see everybody else and how fast they're doing stuff. And then the teacher has to tell her, we're not timing it. So that, because timing anything, timing her at home, you have 5 minutes to clean your room or anything that has to do with time limits, it's a trigger word for her, we had a life back in Washington where things were timed and things got tossed away if it wasn't put away in that time. And so it just kind of traumatized her in a way. And so we're trying to pull back from that.
So I have a couple things. First, I have a couple things, because we're going to have to wrap up here pretty quick or do something different.
I know it.
But so my first question is, what can schools do differently? So we want to talk about that really quick. And the second thing I really want to address before we conclude today is, why does any of this even matter? Those are two things. So first, what can schools do differently? What would you have liked to have seen when you called that principal and said, hey, I think we have an issue? How would you have liked him to act on that?
Well, I would have liked him to take me more seriously. Again, with the judgment of a single parent, that's really hard feeling that way. But being taken more seriously would have to be, because the school is so overloaded around the world, so overloaded with IEPs and 504s and there's so much paperwork along with it and testing and this, that, and the other. They don't want to start additional IEPs and 504s. So being taken seriously and then having the school actually get on with it. It's I would say it's a problem around the world, not just our district,
Okay.
That's really good. So then I'm hogging this, but
You go ahead.
the second question is, why does it matter? Why does it matter if your daughter gets a good education?
Because they are the future of this world. Like, having a good education can point either, if she's not getting the education she needs, she could end up being out on the streets like me, living in poverty, not well educated in life skills and stuff like that, but having the education that she needs and being put out there and having the knowledge and stuff like that, she could be our next president, I mean, like, I understand that you can get somewhere without an education, but it's a lot harder to get there. But man, get the education you need.
Yeah.
So life is so much easier.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, having a high school diploma opens up all kinds of doors and windows, I guess. And it does open up things. Sometimes people are stuck in positions because they don't have that high school diploma and they're afraid to move somewhere else, or they're afraid they're going to.
Well, and Kym comes to us and she's got an education.
Right.
So imagine that you're a single mom or a single parent. Could be a dad.
Right.
And you didn't finish high school yourself. And so now having to navigate everything with not only being homeless and needing a job and having a child, but now your child struggling at school, and what else does this look like? So I think we might need to come back and do a part 2 with Kym.
Oh, part 2. This has been good.
interesting.
Yeah, we didn't get through all these little questions that we have here.
But we're going to wrap it up for this week, and I'm going to tell you, if you would be interested, or you know somebody who would be interested in being on Housing for Good, drop us a line, send us an email, get a hold of us out here at the Housing Coalition. If you want to dispute or have a comment or question about what's been said today, send it in. Let us know what you think, and you can do all of that at housingforgood@mcphersonhc.org. And thank you.
And have a great day.